It's time, Cougar Nation. Cougar Tracks. The best season analysis with BYU insider Mitch Harper on KSL NewsRadio and on video every day on the YouTube page for KSL Sports.
Welcome into Cougar Tracks here on KSL NewsRadio and the KSL Sports YouTube page. It's Wednesday, January 28th. Getting closer to the big showdown between BYU and Kansas this weekend in Lawrence. Cannot wait for that. And let's get an early look at the Jayhawks right now in our top story of the day.
The top story of the day. The biggest story in the world of BYU sports right here on Cougar Tracks.
Saturday, BYU versus Kansas. Tip-off at 2:30 p.m. at historic Allen Fieldhouse. I will be there in Lawrence, getting you ready for the Cougs and the Jayhawks. Coverage begins here at KSL at noon from Kansas. I'll get you ready for the top 15 showdown between BYU and KU. And BYU leads the series 2-0 since BYU joined the Big 12 Conference. BYU won 2 years ago at Allen Fieldhouse with Mark Pope as the head coach, 78-76. And then last year, Kevin Young's squad thumped KU 91-57, and Kansas just quite frankly has not looked anything like we have grown accustomed to with Kansas basketball before BYU joined the Big 12. 4 years ago, Kansas was the national champions in college basketball. 6 years ago, BYU faced KU in the Maui Invitational, and that was the number one team in the country was Kansas in that game. And BYU lost that game 71-56. And that was a really good BYU team. Remember that year? They didn't have Yoli Childs. But Kansas is a historic program. And I think it's pretty cool how Kansas fans are lining up days on end, getting ready for this game on Saturday. They've been camping out at Allen Fieldhouse since Tuesday, getting ready for this game. Never in my wildest dreams, when BYU was joining the Big 12, when everyone thought, can BYU even win a game in this conference in basketball? And only 3 short years later, BYU is one of the big games for Kansas students and fans heading into this game. And I know Kansas students always kind of camp out for nearly any game because getting into Allen Fieldhouse is a big deal, but this one takes on great significance because there's no midweek game for KU and BYU, of course, having A.J. Dybantsa, the number one recruit in the country in the 25 cycle, and potentially the number one NBA draft pick. And the man that's the biggest threat to taking that number one NBA draft pick spot from A.J. is Darryn Peterson, Kansas star. He's been dealing with an ankle injury. Earlier in the year, he was dealing with a hamstring injury. Ankle caused him to miss last Saturday's game against Kansas State for the Jayhawks. But according to Bill Self on John Rothstein's podcast today, he said that he expects Darryn Peterson to be able to go on Saturday. And that's awesome because AJ versus Darryn Peterson is what we all want to see, AJ and DP. The last time these two guys met on the same floor together, Darryn Peterson was with Prolific Prep. A.J. Dybantsa was with Utah Prep. Darryn Peterson dropped 58 points. A.J. dropped 49. I don't know if we can expect that on Saturday, but is it too much to ask for both guys to go off for 30? I mean, that is going to be a spectacle to see those two guys operate. And we'll be curious to see if any time does A.J. get the assignment to try to slow down Darryn Peterson. It'll be really interesting to see, but he's expected to go on Saturday. And you look at some of the NBA mock drafts right now, pretty much all of them have AJ as the number 2 pick. ESPN, CBS, No Ceilings, NBADraft.net, even Bleach Report, who came out with a mock draft today, Jonathan Wasserman. He's got AJ at number 3, behind Peterson and Boozer at Duke. So maybe AJ can silence his doubters in a game with Darryn Peterson on the same floor as him. And that's going to be the task coming up on Saturday. But ultimately, you got to get a win. It can't just be about the Darryn Peterson, A.J. Dybantsa show. ultimately BYU's got to get a win here because this is an opportunity for BYU to really enhance its resume and get what would be its best win of the season. They've had some really good wins, but this one would take the cake for best win to this point of the season. I'm not too worried about the loss against Arizona. I think it raises questions about how does BYU stack up against the quad 1A teams. And I don't know if Kansas is on the same tier as well, they're definitely not on the same tier as Arizona. I don't think they're on the same tier as Texas Tech right now or anywhere close to UConn. But Kansas is trending up, and they're playing really good basketball right now. The issue for Kansas is in recent years since BYU joined the Big 12 has been they can't win away from home. And then last week they got wins at Colorado and at Kansas State. I don't think those are two of the probably bottom 5 teams in the league, but still they got road wins. They're currently on a 4-game win streak, is KU. They're 15-5 overall, 5-2 in Big 12 play. And similar to Arizona, Kansas has a starting 5 with some big guys. Arizona had some bigs that really kind of raised some questions and some concerns for Kevin Young going in. And BYU did a really good job on Arizona's big men, but Kansas has a similar deal with Flory Badunga, 6'10", 235, and then true freshman Bryson Tiller, 6'11", 240 pounds. So BYU has to account for 2 big guys and a lot more athletic than probably even Arizona's big men because Krivas and Toby Awaka, they're down in the low post, rebounders, shot blockers, whereas Badunga and Tiller, Tiller's someone who could guard a lot of different guys, and Badunga's a really good athlete. So it'll be a different look. And Kansas has got a really good lineup with Melvin Council, who seems like he's become a bit of a fan favorite for Kansas, a St. Bonaventure transfer. He's been really good. And I think one of the things that stands out to me about Kansas this year, just from my perspective, watching the Big 12, I just feel like there's better body language from Kansas this season. I had some questions about Kansas at the UCF loss when they were in Orlando, and Darryn Peterson was nursing a hamstring, and he's on the bench, sitting it out, and not on the floor with his guys to try to go win that game. And I thought, this could be another bad year for Kansas, but they've turned it around. I just think they've got a better locker room this year. It seemed like the past couple of years with Hunter Dickinson, Dwan Harris, it was like they're really good college guys, but they're not elite pros. They're not top-end talent compared to the rest of the Big 12, and I just didn't know if they really liked playing for each other. I feel like this Kansas team does like playing for one another, and that's half the battle these days in the transfer portal era. And Kansas has got some NBA guys with Darryn Peterson, and I think Flory Badunga as well, too. BYU's got their NBA guys, too. AJ Dybantsa, Rob Wright, Richie Saunders popping up like second-round draft pick on mock draft. So this is going to be a high-level basketball game on Saturday, and we'll have more breakdown of the game coming up in the next few days here on Cougar Tracks. But it's a good sign that Darryn Peterson is expected to go. Hopefully there's no setback because I think we all want to see that. We all want to see that showcase event with AJ and Darryn Peterson and College Game Day. It's going to be a big deal coming up on Saturday, and we'll be inside Allen Fieldhouse this Saturday getting you ready for tip-off between the Cougars and the Jayhawks at 2:30 right here on KSL. Let's take a break. On the other side, we'll get to a former Coug who's having a lot of success in the pros. That's next here on Cougar Tracks. Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports YouTube page. Mitch Harper here with you. Some exciting news on a former BYU basketball star, Egor Dёmin. No, not Egor Dёmin. Egor Dёmin. That's what he goes by in the NBA. That's his official pronunciation of his last name. Still kind of tough to get used to because we called him Dёmin at BYU, but it's actually Dёmin for Egor. The rookie with the Brooklyn Nets was selected to Team Vince of the NBA Rising Stars game. He's going to be on a team with former Baylor star VJ Edgecombe, Derek Queen from Baylor, Cedric Coward, Jalen Wells. Egor is part of that game. Going to be Friday, February 13th at 7 p.m. on Peacock in L.A. at the Intuit Dome. And I just love to see this from Egor. And it's kind of fun to look at how much he's evolving in his game, because when he left BYU after last season, you just knew that he was going to get better in the NBA. The NBA game was more suited to Egor's style of play. And I think he's thriving with the Nets. And you look at what Egor's doing, he's tied the NBA rookie record with a three-point made in 33 straight games. At BYU, he started in 33 games for the Cougars. With the Nets so far in his rookie campaign, he started in 33 games with the Nets. Here's some comparables to his stats at BYU in his one season in Provo and what he's doing this year in 33 starts, 40 game appearances in Brooklyn. With Brooklyn, he's averaging 10.4 points per game. At BYU is 10.6. Rebounds, very similar as well, 3.0 with the Nets, 3.9 at BYU. Assists, he had 5 dimes per game at BYU, 3.4 with the Nets. This is where the biggest change is happening with Egor's game. 3-point percentage at BYU, 27.3%. With the Nets, it's at 39.7%. Free throw line, 69.5 at BYU, 85.7 in Brooklyn. And he's still maintaining the 40% shooting from the field that he had last season at BYU at 41.2 and 40.3 his rookie year at Brooklyn. I asked Coach Kevin Young about how important it is for his program to not only produce guys to the NBA, but when they get to the league like Egor did, that they have an impact immediately, as Egor is having. And this was KY on that.
No, it's wildly important. It's one thing to talk about, the NBA, we can get guys ready for it. And if they go there and they're not ready, or they're not good, it doesn't give a lot of credence and legitimacy to what we're doing here. I've had a lot of conversation with Egor and his circle, his agents and so forth, and his parents, and they've been very complimentary about his time here and how much it helped prepare him for the NBA, which I take great pride in that. That's one of the things I love about this particular job. It allows me to do what I love at a high level, but also do what I love at a high level in terms of the NBA as well, and not losing those relationships and everything that I learned in that league. So I find great joy in helping guys prepare themselves for the next level. AJ's up next, Richie's up next, and as we're on the recruiting trail, we're trying to find the next people that are going to be in line with that. So it's a big part of what we do. I think that's been well documented. I've loved to not only see his success, but his growth. His ability to knock shots down, not lose confidence, and the fact that he's playing with a passion, he's playing with the purpose out there. He sent me the other day, a picture of him and KD kind of talking pregame. Sent me a picture of him and Steph talking pregame, and he's out living his dream, man, playing against the legends of the game. And it's really fun for me to sit back and watch, and I look forward to hopefully that being a thing that we are able to do year in and year out.
Very cool breakdown there from Kevin Young. And Egor was such a big piece for BYU. When you think about what KY is building, because KY took this job at BYU in an effort to take the program to heights they've never reached before. Egor Dёmin was that guy that really took a chance and believed in KY before anyone else, and gave a little bit of that proof of concept that this can work. And I thought it was significant, too, when the Brooklyn Nets, who were heavily involved visiting Provo during Egor's one season with the Cougars, that they drafted him as high as they did, I believe in part because they loved the fact that he was coached by KY, because KY trains guys in a way that they're going to be successful NBA players, and they're going to be highly competitive in the film that you watch on these guys in college, but they're being developed like pros. It's kind of a little bit like there was almost in football, Ty goes to the Nick Saban player who went through the Alabama program. You're going to trust the way that Saban coached a guy. Not saying KY is a Saban of college basketball, but I think there's a lot of respect and trust when taking a BYU guy now. He has been trained and developed to step into the NBA, and mentally it's not going to be a whirlwind for him. And culturally it's not going to be a whirlwind either, because the way that they operate under KY now at BYU is like NBA guys, an NBA system, an NBA organization. That's what BYU is putting together. And I think so far, Yegor's success only bodes well for the Richie Saunders, for the AJ Dybantsas. And look, AJ didn't need BYU, honestly, to get to the league. Dude probably could have sat out this year and still been a top 5 pick. But it only elevates his profile. And I think with Richie Saunders, he goes from being a role guy to a legitimate NBA pro, and Rob Wright's going to be a pro. Heck, why not Keba Keita? You think about the athleticism of Keba Keita. I don't know if Keita's going to be a draft pick, but maybe could he stick as a G League guy and find his way onto an NBA roster? Potentially. So what Kevin Young is doing is big time. And I think producing NBA talent and getting those guys to the league and then having success like Yegor is having, that is awesome. Because far too often, BYU in the NBA, it was never a thing. You had Jimmer Fredette, you had Sean Bradley, Danny Ainge back in the day, and that was about it. A few guys that maybe got 10-day contracts, but not really much to write home about. And Jimmer, he got drafted, and he just didn't work out in the NBA, didn't. Plain and simple. Yegor's having a lot of success, and I think he's going to be a really good player in the league. And the idea that BYU could have a handful of guys in the next couple of years in the NBA is just huge for the program. It's massive because high school recruiting is a mixed bag these days. You're probably, if you're BYU, just wanting to pursue maybe the one and dones and then get those local guys as well, and then supplement the rosters with transfer portal. But if you can get those high-end high school guys that are one and dones, NBA prospects, and get program guys that can develop into NBA players, that's big time. I mean, that's the stuff that where you could get a big number of former Cougs in the NBA, and that's not the end-all, be-all for Kevin Young's program. Ultimately, they want to win in the college game, but it definitely doesn't hurt to be producing a lot of NBA players. And so far, in Kevin Young's tenure at BYU, his first draft pick, Egor Dёmin, it's been really good so far in the NBA. That's going to do it for this edition of Cougar Tracks. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to the show. Check out Cougar Tracks wherever you get your podcasts, and I'll talk to you tomorrow here on Cougar Tracks, and it's powered by KSL Sports.